Dudes to Dads, brought to you by Dad University, is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads. No, I'm waiting for the...
Drum roll.
No, I just wanted the different music to come in.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to work on that maybe in the 200s.
Speed metal?
Speed metal.
What else could we do? A little dubstep?
Dubstep would be great. I think I have some dubstep stuff.
I think we should do that.
In the archives.
For sure.
I actually made some dubstep songs, so I could probably incorporate that.
I'd love that. I'd love that. A little funk. Yeah, a little funk dubstep. Welcome back, everybody. If that's what, I don't even say that. It's been another week. It's exciting. Episode 199. This one is a good one, too. It's the biggest surprises about fatherhood.
Oh, okay.
So here's what happens. You find out you're going to be a dad. And everyone loves to tell you what's going to happen.
Right.
That's that's what happens. Whether they've gone through it or not, they're experts.
Right.
Yeah. You're not going to get any sleep. You're not going to have time for anything. Somebody, even a relative, will say, like, "What, you really think you can afford a child?" Which is a great thing to say to someone who already has a child on the way.
So it's like, well, they're on the way now.
Right. Like, you're never going to get any sleep.
Right.
Well, thank you for that positive reinforcement.
Right.
Your relationship's totally going to change.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And then, you're not going to be the same that you used to be. Well, great.
Yeah. It might be a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, these aren't really surprises, because a lot of that stuff doesn't happen. These are kind of expectations that people put on you and the situation. But so I want to sort of hone in on these surprises that I went through. These were all sort of, I really didn't expect all of this.
Okay.
There's things that you just expect. Okay, I'm going to get less sleep. Okay, and that's why I said these are all expectations. But fatherhood's full of surprises. I mean, it's always, yes, you know what you're getting into a little bit, but I really wasn't prepared for a lot of the things.
Right.
And even whether you read about it or someone tells you, it doesn't matter. I think it's impossible to be prepared for everything.
Yeah, for sure.
What to expect when you're expecting. Right.
Right.
You don't know until you go through it. So a couple things. I wanted to share my experience and sort of kind of maybe what I learned from it. I feel like I have extra caffeine or something. It kicks in that half hour.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. We'll start off. Number one, the relationship takes work.
The relationship with who?
The baby.
Gotcha.
So when our first child was born, I was a little worried because I had mentioned this, that I didn't feel a really strong bond right away.
Yeah.
Even when my wife was pregnant, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll talk to it. I'll put my hand on your stomach. Like, you just don't have this. For me, I didn't have the same connection, obviously, that she did. Some people do. They just listening to it and touch it and hear the heartbeat. Like, so it was a peanut for me. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't.
It's an organism, a parasite growing off of your wife.
Yeah.
No, but and this is kind of, I might interject with some questions here because
for sure, go for it. You're the dude.
I'm the dude. Did you have friends that had kids prior to you having them?
A couple. Mm-hmm. But I really didn't talk to them about their kids.
Well, that's interesting because some people are.
I wasn't interested in kids before I had mine.
I know, but some people when they have them, they're all gung ho. Like, yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna do these things. I'm already ready, and I'm Wonder Dad. And then, like you, I would imagine, and some of my friends are like, hey, yeah, it's here.
No, I think I was. Well, so you just actually said kind of two things. I think I was really excited. Because I was thinking about the future, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be able to share this or whatever. Mm. So I think I had a ton of expectations.
Uh-huh.
And that I would feel this amazing feeling and bond and all these things with this baby. and I didn't feel that.
Gotcha.
So that's where the surprise was.
That you thought you were going to have.
I thought I would have a way better bond with this thing. No, granted, I mean, I love the child. My son was born. I was like, oh, this is great. Okay, now what do we do? You know? And it really wasn't until I started, doing baths and changing. Well, my wife will say I didn't change a lot of diapers, but I did some.
Yeah.
Or the feeding. Okay, I didn't get up that late at night either. I love you, honey.
This whole episode is going to be you apologizing to your wife about what happened 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, there's still some resentment. And I think we got over it.
Yeah, I think you worked it out.
After all that stuff, I then began to feel close.
Yeah.
When I started spending the time, and even my wife would go out and I'd be alone with the baby. And at first I'm like, what do I do? Like, I don't even know what to do with this thing. And it gradually began to fall in love, with the baby. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing. And so it took a couple months for me to feel that way. And then I do remember holding him and being like, wow, this is crazy that this is mine. Like we did this, but it wasn't right away. Mm-hmm. It definitely wasn't. It definitely took maybe a couple months in order to do that, And so what I'm getting at is that the relationship took work. And so that was a surprise for me because I expected to just have a good relationship and have that bond and that. And then that continues as they grow. In other words, there's some times where I feel a little bit distant with my kids. I haven't spent as much time with them, and so maybe I'm working too much. There was a span, or if I don't travel a lot, but if I do, I don't see them. Where I may work a couple of nights in a row, and I don't get a chance to have dinner with them or whatever. So. And as they get older, they're also choosing to spend time with their friends. Yeah. So they're not choosing to spend time with me either.
Sure.
So when I notice this, I do, and we had that last episode, we were talking about the balance that I may give them a little bit more affection because I notice something's out of whack. The balance is off. Or the harmony is off. Mm-hmm. And so I may, give them a little bit more affection, or I'll try connecting with them. It's great because I get to go on these weekends, where I go camping with them one-on-one. Mm-hmm. So there's that kind of thing that helps you reconnect with them. And it was literally just the other day, I felt that way because I had some other stuff going on personally, with my father and stuff and his health. And so I was spending a ton of time tending to that. Yeah. And as a result, I really, for a good week or so, didn't have a lot of time with them. And I started to feel that distance. And so when I did have the opportunity, I was really trying to be affectionate with them and at night, laid down with them and was, hanging out a little bit longer than I normally would. And that felt really good for me even because I felt like I was able to reconnect a little bit. Yeah. And you sort of build that back up. And the same thing happens with your spouse, and the same thing happens with your friends where you're like, oh, I haven't seen them in so long. We need to reconnect. Sure. The same thing happens. And so that happens with your kids. And that's the truth, is that the reality. That's the truth and the reality. The reality that the relationship you have with your children takes work. Sure. Just like any other relationship. Now, it's work that you might really enjoy doing, but you can't neglect the relationship and just live your lives and think that you're going to have a strong relationship with your children. Right. You have to make that effort. It's like that with anything. Mm-hmm. You and your wife, you're not going to have a strong relationship by just living side by side with each other, right? Not interacting that much, or not spending time together, or not communicating, and it's the same thing with the kids. Yeah. So the relationship takes work. That's basically what I was trying to do. Right. Yeah. That was a long way of getting around that. Yeah. I was just filling up a couple minutes of space with that. So, and then the second thing, I kind of just touched on this, but that I could love something so much. Because when my first child was born, I knew that I would like him, but I didn't realize how much love you have, or at least I have. I wanted to protect it. I wanted to help it grow. It just, I think having the child having a child taught me how much capacity for love I had, you know? And it was interesting because when we were about to have our second, we found out we were going to have another child, I was actually concerned, and I remember communicating this to my wife, that I was going to be able to love the second child as enough or like as much, because I'm like, I love this first one so much.
Yeah.
How can I have more in me to love the second one?
Right.
You know, just couldn't think of it. And, you know, I was totally wrong. It's like, it's amazing how much love we have inside of it. I mean, I honestly, granted my wife would not, but I could have so many more children now, understanding that. I mean, I might have a lot more gray hair and my brain would fry, but
Right.
but this idea that I could love multiple children, it's just for sure, absolutely. I get it. I understand someone has 10 children and they love them all.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I think after a certain number, though, it's got to be.
they may just get less attention.
Yeah, just get a lot less attention.
But they still love them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
They're still their favorite. So yeah, it was just, it's interesting. And I used to not consider myself very emotional, although maybe I'm okay with expressing emotion, but I can say, when you have children, it's even a little more. Like I found myself getting more emotional, feeling more raw emotion. It's just something that happens. And so you don't realize, like I said, that how much you can love this being. It's not an expectation that I had. It was a surprise. It was a surprise for me. I mean, I just didn't realize that. So that was the other one. So number 3, time goes by really fast. So everybody with older kids says that. Like, man, my kid's off to college now. It just flew by.
Yeah.
And I was always just like, really? Just no, it doesn't. And especially when you have a newborn and you're like, 10 hours of crying in a row and you're just like, this is going really slow.
Yeah. What happened to the flying by part?
Yeah. I mean, some of the times, they feel like they last forever. But it is true. My kids are now 8 and 10. I mean, we were just talking about that. Like you remember my son coming into the office when he was first born.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then the Buzz Lightyear time.
Yeah. I mean, I look at baby pictures now and I feel like it just happened.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel long ago at all.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Well, I mean, we need to enjoy the present moment for sure. Right. But yeah, I mean, you can't take anything for granted, but just this idea that it goes by so fast, it's so strange, but it does, and I can see that where, somebody's, I mean, even for my parents that, when I was an adult, like it just, like, I remember, my mom used to always say that, like, I remember, changing you and doing that. I was like, really? Like, how do you remember that? It's 35 years ago or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it now. And so that was a surprise for me, even though people said it. I just didn't believe it, and I didn't want to believe it, or I didn't, it just didn't resonate until you actually experience it.
Well, it's interesting, I was raised by my grandparents for a good chunk of my life, and my grandmother would make reference to certain things that I did as a kid, and also my uncle did as a kid,
Right.
So she had that experience from like years ago, and then even like helping rear me, she had like that go by, and she told me, she's the one who straight out told me, she goes, yeah, it feels like yesterday, and she said straight out, she goes, every decade goes by faster.
Right.
Like quite literally. She's like, well, wait till you're older. I'm like, that's how point. She was in her 60s at the time. She told me that, and I'm like,
it's crazy. It really is crazy.
Yeah,
and especially if you have a decent memory.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And now with pictures and video and everything.
Oh yeah,
else,
you can document it even if you don't. So
so you don't have to worry about like totally remembering everything.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's another one, number 4. It's not all about me anymore. This is really about. This is what kind of Dudes to Dads was founded on.
Yeah.
That the idea of your transitioning from the single dude who's really only worried about yourself to a family man where you now have a significant other, you've got kid or kids. This was a big surprise for me. The same thing. And one of the areas where there was the shift was in your decision making. So, you quickly realize how dependent this child is, and as a result, your decision making shifts. And this could be something little. I mean, I'm just saying, like, what you're doing on Saturday.
Right.
Like that changes. Like, okay, well, what are we going to do this weekend? Well, I just wanted to hang out with my kids.
Yeah.
Versus, maybe even talking about like your career and the fact that your children now are influencers of that.
Right.
Or your spouse is an influencer. Like, okay, so wait, where do my children go to school? What is the timing? What's their, like, things become a factor, and you just don't make decisions anymore that are just about you,
right?
And what you want. And so that was quite a surprise too. It's just that you become multifaceted. That there's all these things happening, and yeah, you can't just think about yourself.
Yeah,
even just for dinner. It's not just about what you want anymore. Sure. What do you mean we can't go here? Don't you guys all like that? No, nobody else likes it.
Right.
So you have to, you have to sort of come.
All right, the family-friendly place, I guess.
You've got to learn.
You don't want sushi all the time.
Yeah, it's always a group, which is funny because then when you are by yourself, like if my wife and kids go out of town, I'm like, I'm going to go order go get Mexican food and sit on the couch and watch, or something, like, even if it's for 10 minutes. And it's just funny, like how much
you covet that time,
how much enjoyment you can get. And then you're so happy to see them again. But yeah, it's just not about you anymore. So that's what happens. I wouldn't change it, but it is pretty funny. Number 5, and again, this is the whole purpose of Dad University and the videos and everything that we do here, even on Dudes to Dads too, is that number 5, how we act really affects our child. I just think I didn't take into consideration how much what I was doing affected them, and how much of a mirror they are. That they really do just mimic and mirror every single thing that you do. It's funny. I was in the car the other day with my kids, and my 8-year-old daughter says, "Oh no, traffic." I'm like, wow, I can't imagine where she got that from. Like, how does an 8-year-old care about traffic? As we're strolling onto the freeway going up north. Like, they are listening to everything you say, everything you do. They're watching everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. So if you do, we often want to take credit for all the good stuff that they're doing, like, oh, of course, but then all these habits and these things that they do that are negative, guess what? That's ours too. They pick on every little quirk, every little thing that ticks you off, changes your emotion on good or bad. They pick up on it. Absolutely. They're paying attention to you. No, totally. And even if they're not mimicking you, the things that you do affects how they act. And the decisions that they make and how they learn things and everything else. And so, it's amazing how much of an effect we have. Hence, when you see young children, and they're doing things that are, whether it's inappropriate, rude, you have to know either one, they have not been taught properly, or 2, they've been taught improperly.
Exactly.
But that's what it is. It's one or the other, and and so typically you can see that it doesn't fall far from the tree. And that's the good and bad of our own kids. If my kids are doing something like that, I have to take responsibility for that. And then as they get a little older, you can lessen the responsibility that you have. Yep, they're their own person now. Not my fault.
I haven't seen them in weeks.
I only spent 18 years with them. And then number 6, and again, another just basis for why I'm doing what I do, is that number 6 is good parenting is not from instincts. So I used to think that because I had good parents, my gut and instincts would just steer me in the total right direction when parenting my kids. And what I realized is that, and this is from studying parenting and doing a lot of things, is that I realized how little I actually knew. The concepts like empathy, unconditional love, positive reinforcement, just like these things, these weren't in my vocabulary. I didn't know what those meant. So, I started to seek answers of my own frustrations and just knew, like, okay, wait, there's got to be other dads that are going through the same thing, So it's just, I think it's never too late to learn more. And we think that like, oh, we're doing this correctly or that correctly. But when you learn like these concepts and these techniques and things like that, it makes things so much easier too. And I thought I was doing things in a certain way because that's how it was done for me. And my parents were great parents, but that may have not been optimal.
Right.
Even if they're great parents, it doesn't mean that situation was done optimally.
Sure. Or that the kid's going to react the same way you did.
Correct. You have to take into consideration a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, for the people who listen, it's, I commend you for, listening to the podcast in the sense that, you're wanting to learn more, and as a dad, it's something, the learning never ends. You know what? I mean, what number podcast is this?
199.
Sheesh. 199 podcasts later, and I'm on video 60 something. I don't even know where I am.
Yeah.
That's a lot of content, and that's a lot of learning.
Yeah.
A lot of learning.
Yeah.
You
were doing this show. Well, you were having kids way before the show, but also you were doing basically the meetup group.
Yeah, a couple of years before, even prior to doing that. Was only it just wasn't as often as this.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I mean, the amount of topics that we have covered, the amount that I've learned through all of this is crazy. And in fact, that seems like a great thing for the next episode. In fact, that's what we'll do. So for episode 200, I can't believe.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do is we'll do that. We'll go back and kind of learn. We'll see what the best of what's the things that we've learned out of these first 200 episodes. What were the things that stuck out?
Yeah.
So join us for that. That'll be cool.
That'd be really great
next week. So with that, Alan, thank you as always.
Yeah.
And if people have any comments or reviews or anything, what should they do?
They should email us, podcast@dudesadads.com, Twitter @dudesadads, a social media presence, Facebook, dudesadads.com. Please go to YouTube and see all the Dad University videos on there and a lot of Dudes to Dads tie-ins from there. And then and subscribe to those channels. And if you don't do anything else, please subscribe to the Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and wherever else you're hearing us, and leave a review and give us some 5 stars or thumbs up, as it really helps perpetuate the show.
Awesome. Well, with that, Alan, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in a week for 200.
One more.
See ya.
See ya.